Welcome to another culture activity. My name is Kyla Molina and we're so excited that you're here today. Today what we're going to be focusing on is a mini pucker toe moccasin. And so these are moccasins worn by the Chickasaw people and other tribes, but each tribe has their own moccasin and their own way of creating it. And so today I'm just going to show you one simple way. So all we're going to be doing today is we're going to be threading this baby up and making it pucker at the end. The first thing that I will say is that in order to make it pucker, you have to pull it so tight. So be ready to pull it tight and make sure it stays really tight in order to get that pucker that you see there. So we're going to use this string to thread our needle and then to sew our moccasin together. And so in your packet, what you've been given is you have been given string, a needle, and then your actual moccasin pieces. And so something to just think about the moccasins is that these are really important to our culture. It connects us with the earth and the animals that are here. And I think it's just a good reminder that our people were very resilient and the things that they made are still useful today. So, little pucker toe moccasins. I hope that it'll be a fun activity for you and your family. So the first thing that we're going to do is thread our needle, and then we're just going to get going on working with our moccasin. The first thing we want to do is we want to tie about 3 knots into this string because we don't want it to come out. These holes we tried to cut pretty small, and so hopefully about a 3-knot loop will keep us from coming through this hole. What you need to decide now is what side of the moccasin do you actually want to be your outside. You can have the kind of shinier side on your outside that's soft, or you can have the more rigid, this would probably be like a typical outside of a moccasin, what it would look like, and the inside they would be the same, but with the fabric that we're using today, it's just a little different. So I would recommend this color being your outside, and that will give you a little pucker toe moccasin that looks like this, with that shiny side as our flap down, and then similar, this would be like a brown one where that shiny side is our flap down. But either way that you want to do it, you're going to work from the opposite side. So this is the side that's not going to be showing once I flip my moccasin inside out. And so I'm going to work this way, but if you want it to be opposite, you just turn it opposite and work with whatever side you want to be the inside on the outside. So again, just think opposite. So what we're going to do first is lay it down, and you'll see these tiny holes. We have this first hole, and then we have this hole that's a little bit closer than this hole, and we actually want that. We do that on purpose because what this does is this creates the pucker, where our moccasins create a kind of pattern like this where they're very tight and it puckers that toe. And so again, I'm going to work with my shiny side on the outside because I don't want that side to be showing. I'm going to go through my middle hole, which is just the very start hole. I'm going to pull my thread, and it should just kind of stop there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work from the outside in. So I'm going to, see how my thread is in the inside, but I'm actually going to come around. I'm going to take my thread around and come back out, and then I'm just going to do that all the way up. I'm going to go to the other side. Remember, I'm working from the outside in, and I'm going to pull my thread in. So now what we want to do is we actually want to pull that really tight because that is going to create our pucker. And now we're just going to go back and forth from side to side. So on the outside, I'm going to go through my hole and pull it through, and I'm actually going through the middle section. And we want to make sure this is very tight because that's what's going to give us our pucker toe. We're going to go through the outside hole and come in through the middle, pull it really tight each time. With this project, you can't wait till the end to pull it tight. You have to work it the whole time to create that pucker. Outside in, pull it tight. And see how I'm already starting to create that pucker right there? But we want to see that when it's reversed too. So we'll flip it inside out in a minute and see it. And so we're going through, and we're basically just going back and forth. And all these holes are pre-cut for you. So you should just be able to work your way through them. And we're just pulling tight, and it doesn't, whenever you're looking at your moccasin, it might not line up exactly, and that's okay. Wait, because we're gonna turn it inside out, and then it'll line up for us. So we're going through the hole, up through the middle, pulling it tight, through the hole, up through the middle. And if you don't pull it tight, it will continue. You have to be careful. Sometimes it can cut your finger, so be careful whenever you are pulling it. And I'm just basically pulling it and then pulling my string and kind of working my way down. Go through the middle. I got my thread under there a little bit, so I'm just gonna pull it so it's not under that thread. And again, working to pull it tight. And then we're on our last one where we go through, and again, we're just working to pull it tight. So now that we're at the top, our pucker is finished. And so what we want to do is we really want to tie this off. And so I'm going to go under my last little line and then go back through my hole, my loop that I made, and it's just going to make a little knot. And you can secure this more. Remember, this side is going to be flipped outside, so we're not going to be able to see these strings. But again, the biggest thing is we want to make sure that pucker is really tight, so that way none of our thread is showing. And if you turn it inside out, let's look at this one and we'll turn it inside out. If you turn it inside out and you can see any of your thread, that's okay. You can unthread it. I would recommend waiting to cut it, but you can unthread it and retry your pucker. And so all I'm gonna see is that little bit of top, and then this is going to lay down. So that's the start of our pucker toe. And we wanna flip it inside out, because now what we wanna do is we want to thread our backing. And so our backing is just a very simple stitch as well. We're going to use the rest of our string and tie, I would tie a 3 knot again. And we have these 3 little holes right here that line up, and then we stitch all the way up, and our stitches are going to be a little different for this bottom part versus the top part, so that way our top part will lay down. And so how we do the bottom part is I line up the stitches and I go through them. And then what I want to do is, where this knot is at on my thread, is I actually want to separate this thread apart because it's just wax thread. And I'm going to take my needle through that part, and that's just going to secure that thread at the bottom of the moccasin. And then I just want to work in and out of these 3 bottom holes. So I'm going to take my thread and go up and through, and I'm going to double that. So I'm going to go just again through the same one, and this one we're doing twice. And then I'm going to go up to my next holes and go up and through. And I'm going to do that one more time. Just making that pretty secure right there. And then this is where we're going to start changing our stitch, and we're just going to loop up about halfway. So I'm on this side, I'm going to go up through my next holes. And they might not be exactly aligned, and that's fine. This part you don't have to make sure it's super tight because it's just the backing. So it can be a little bit loose to be able to slide your foot in if you're making a real size one, or to be a little bit loose to be able to fold your part down. And remember, I'm working on the opposite side because I'm going to flip all this inside out. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to thread up. So I'm going through both holes, and then I'm going through both holes, and that kind of creates this this little area where it's skipped. And now I'm just going to thread back down through both holes. So if I come out this hole, I'm going to go back down through this hole, through both, and then again back down through. And what this creates is, it creates lines on both sides. And then I'm gonna end this one here, so I'm gonna tie just a simple knot. Very simple. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on these up here. That way it gives me a little bit extra room for it to lay down. And these two are done a little bit different. So see, this one you can actually see the thread on the outside. And this one you can't see the thread on the outside. So you could do it whatever way that you prefer. On this one, we're gonna do it to where we can see the thread on the outside. So now what we're gonna do, we still have about 1, 2, 3, 4 holes at the top. We're gonna turn our moccasin inside out so we can see all of our beautiful work. I really like when this type of color is on the outside. And so we have a little bit of a rounded edge right there, which is great. And we're gonna do that same stitch, but we're gonna just do it on the outside. So I'm gonna tie a knot. I have a little bit of thread. Hopefully you have a little bit more than I do. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna line up our holes, go through. Now we're on the other side. We're gonna go through. My thread come undone. That's okay, just rethread your needle. These needles are pretty big because they're leather needles, so they're easier to work with than the smaller needles. And then we're lining up those 2 holes at the top. And so notice how we have one here, one here. Well, we're kind of missing one there, and we're kind of missing a connection here. So now we're just gonna thread back down. I said bead because I'm used to beading, but we're just gonna thread back down. And that's just gonna create this continuous line of thread. And then we can again, when I make a knot, all I'm doing is I'm taking my thread kind of through the loop that's already there, and then it creates this little loop, and then I just take the thread back through. And there's a little knot, and we can actually cut off this kind of excess piece. And you can cut off this excess piece too. And then now that top piece is going to be folded down, and so you have to work it a little bit to get it there, but it folds down over the top, and there is your pucker toe moccasin.